All right, well, we have a new project edition here. It's a 1992 Honda Civic hatchback. I believe it's a DX model. It's a 5-speed manual transmission. And you can see here in 1992, the car only came with a driver's side mirror, no passenger side. This car overall is in a relatively stock condition. No racing modifications have ever been made. It's all fairly OEM. And aside from a couple of dings in the fenders, which are replaceable, the body is in overall really good condition and relatively straight on the rear fender wells. There is a small dent over the right rear tire. And somebody decided to go at the side of this car with a key at some point. This car is not running currently. The previous owner said the head gasket was blown and that he replaced it himself, but that when he put the head gasket back on and put the car back together, it just wouldn't start. That sort of tells me that maybe he got the timing wrong, or the timing was off by 180 degrees. So I'm gonna first take this car and get it running before I do anything else to it, while I kind of come up with what other plans. I think my general style and approach to these Hondas is kind of like an OEM plus. I want it to maintain the early 90s aesthetic as much as possible, but also upgrade where necessary to get a little bit more performance out of these vehicles. The interior is in a shape. I've already pulled out a lot of the garbage and trash that was left in the vehicle. This had been sitting, I think, since 2020, so for about 2 full years, parked next to this guy's house. There was evidence of some mice and some cats living in it at some point, but nothing too bad. There is kind of a smell in here, so I think aside from, trying to restore as much as possible, the carpet is definitely going to need pulled and replaced. The nice thing is the interior is mostly complete. It's got 120,000 miles, 124,000 miles, so relatively young Honda. And the previous owner said at some point this car was stolen once, and the thieves removed the alarm system. So I'm not sure, somebody's done something to some electronics in here, so that's gonna have to be looked. The car is just filthy. It's covered in dirt right now. But aside from the driver's seat, there aren't a lot of rips and tears. Everything is in good, salvageable shape. I would say other than the steering wheel, which is loose rubber and probably needs... The thing I like about the EG hatch is that it's got a back seat compared to my CRX, which has no room for passengers. And it looks pretty roomy back there. Headliner, also very good condition. NH538-4, interior color type E blue. A lot of people hate the white with blue interior. I don't mind it. I actually really like these vinyl seats. I think they look cool and they're pretty comfortable. Here's the passenger side. You can see, the door, panels, locks, window controls, all in good, decent shape. The passenger seat needs cleaned thoroughly, but is also in decent shape. And some of the under the dash panels you see that are missing, I do have. They came with the car. And last night I just threw in a Bluetooth radio that I already had a Honda wiring harness plug attached to, just to see if the speakers worked. These EG hatches only came with 2-door speakers. There's not even 4 speakers in these cars. But all the other little panels and things are still in good, restorable condition. So I'm looking forward to bringing some life back into this vehicle. Climate control seems to work. I was able to hook up a battery and turn the fan on. The car did come with AC from the factory, but it is not currently hooked up or working. The actuators for the hatch are out of gas and not working, so I can't really hold this up. But I can flip the tailgate down, and as you can see, the rear trunk is not doing too great. Luckily, I think if you go to stockinteriors.com, you can get a fully brand new carpet kit for the passenger section and for the trunk of this car, which this to me is basically unsalvageable, so that'll need to be replaced. So why did I get this vehicle? Well, number one, it was cheap. It was $1,200 and it was, relatively all stock, pretty unmolested, even though it's not running currently. I feel like after doing the motor swap on my CRX, the B16 swap, I'm much more comfortable with that sort of mechanical work, and I feel like I can get this running eventually. If not, swap in a different motor that will run. The EF CRXs are my absolute favorite Hondas. After that, I've always really loved the body style of the EG hatch. I think it is my second favorite Honda body style and platform. I never owned one before, so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to have a back seat. So many times I want to throw the family in the car and go for a drive, but just can't in the CRX. So this one's got a little bit more room, and it's still pretty compact. And here's a look under the hood. The motor is a D15 B8. This is the non-VTEC motor. It's seen better days. I think it's mostly just dirty and a little neglected, but I'm now also noticing that the heater core itself is not hooked up to the engine, so that is a little concerning. There is factory AC, but currently hooked up either. And the previous owner said, he replaced the head gasket and then the car wouldn't start. So we're gonna have to take a look into what's up with the timing, start checking for air, fuel, and spark, see if we can get this thing running and get it registered, and then we can really start tearing it down, because this vehicle, I wanted to get a project that I wasn't so sensitive about, like my CRX, where I'm very hesitant to tear that down and fully paint it, because I've never painted a whole car before. So I wanted a car in a condition like this that could be good practice for body work and painting. So once the motor's running and things are set here, this will be getting pulled and really fully clean and repaint the engine bay, so everything is nice in there. I've got to debate. I got to do a little bit more research on the engine and transmission that came in these cars. I think the D15, B8, was a very similar horsepower match to my D16 B6 that came out of my CRX SI. So this might be a good option to swap into the car if the transmission of my SI is any better. There's like a couple of clues as to why this thing won't start immediately, but there's, I'm noticing now like the alternator belt isn't even to the crank pulley. Heater core looks like it's been bypassed for some reason. Just taken off of here and it's looped through there. You can see that this has been disconnected. So my plan is definitely to restore this to full working order, including the AC, and I would like to add power steering. I'm not sure what's going on here, because it looks like at some point it did have power steering. Like, it looks to me, based on the residue here and the leftover bolts, even though this guy said it didn't have power steering, which technically that's true, it doesn't. There's also like this big spray pattern. I was trying to figure out where it came from, coming down this side of the motor, and it may be related to a power steering line blowing or something. The radiator looks pretty dry inside. This had been sitting for 2 years. I do hear that the rubber hoses, you know, they can leach moisture through them over time. So we'll get this filled up. I did check the oil. There's actually oil in it. I need to look up this distributor. It looks like an aftermarket distributor, not OEM. So, but it does look like it's at least clocked centered. It's loose. So somebody was playing with the timing on this one for sure. But it looks like somebody tried marking it with the paint marker. So this could have been the distributor that was on here before the like head replacement was done, or the head gasket replacement was done. And like I said, I'm not familiar with EGs at all. D series a little bit, B series more so now. But I think we definitely need to get the alternator hooked up. Step number one. It looks like the entire bracket or bolt has been taken off of there. And instead of loosening the actual sliding bolt, they just disconnected it from the block for some reason. So I'm gonna put some coolant in it. I'm gonna get an alternator belt hooked up. I'm gonna get this thing jacked up so I can, you know, spin the crank a little bit and kind of check top dead center in cylinder number one and see how rough this thing's gonna be. Well, the good news is I won't need to buy new brakes. These look totally fine. So digging a little deeper into this motor, just pulling off the valve cover, you know, it doesn't look very clean. I'm guessing somebody did not change their oil for a very long time in this car. Pulled one of the spark plugs. It also doesn't look great. So I think I'm gonna check that, you know, top dead center is correct and that the timing isn't off completely before I move on to anything else. If that's okay and the timing checks out, then I'll start doing a compression test to see what the cylinders are at. So based on the timing marks on the crank pulley, it does look like at top dead center. Cylinder number one is also at top dead center. I use this just to mark where the edge of this meets the edge of the spark plug hole. That way I know the cylinder's reached the apex of its travel. So I think from here, probably best to take off the timing cover and just inspect the timing belt itself. And then after that, we will try doing a compression test. All right, so even just with the timing cover off, something doesn't look right to me immediately with the crank pulley still set to top dead center for the timing marks down there. This is not looking correct to me. I believe at this point, this where it says up should be up, and these two marks should actually be, you know, level with the top of the head here, which they're not. So this feels like it's almost, I don't know, quite a few degrees off. The whole camshaft is off, and with the cylinder number one set to top dead center, it looks like the cam profile is actually has this valve lifted or completely open. So I can't imagine that this is correct. I sort of keep forgetting that I have a complete working D-Series motor sitting here right now in front of me from my CRX before the B-swap. So I measured top dead center on this, and I noticed it came out to the 18-degree timing mark instead of, you know, center, top dead center for the center of the red mark. But you can see here that the camshaft sprocket does indeed point up, and these are level with the deck for the top of the valve train. So right away I know that cam profile is not in the correct orientation. You can even see here cylinder number one cam lobe is completely closed when it's in that position. So just as a gut check for what I need to adjust on the EG, and I double checked the EG one more time. I also set the EG timing to the, let's see here, to the other set of marks, right past the 3 mark, and double checked that it was indeed top dead center for my little rod gauge. And you can see here the cam profile is just way off. So I'm gonna undo this valve train. I'm gonna rotate the cam into the correct position and see if we can't get this thing started today.